Hello, how are you doing?
Good day, Annie. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Looking forward to our discussion here because we had quite a lot of fun when we were kicking this around in advance.
Yeah.
Um, maybe the best place to start, David, is by you saying a little bit about CityFibre and your role in CityFibre, please.
Okay. So CityFibre, we're the UK's largest independent full fibre network provider. And we've been on a mission now for almost 10 years to transform the digital infrastructure in the United Kingdom. It's a key part of our business strategy that we're also wholesale. So we want to support innovation in the ISP market. Now, where do I fit in all of that? So, as CTO, we don't have a fully traditional CTO that you would find in a more mature business because we've been entrepreneurial. We've been going through build and we're now moving into the scale to operate phase. So, my role is quite, frankly, quite a lot of fun because I look at the technology of the network. Primarily, I'm responsible for everything I say with electrical power going to it. So we build our own data centers. We design the network that connects the data centers together across the United Kingdom. We build all of our access network and design the access network. And I'm also responsible for the delivery of all of those component parts, from the mechanical, electrical, to the DWM, to the routing platforms, and the optical line termination equipment that connects to the home. And I work with a partner group who look at how we build fibre in the ground, how we dig trenches, how we optimize the fibre network for its long-term performance. So and I sign real estate leases. I mean, I told you it's a varied role, but all very exciting. And it gives me the perspectives, the commercial perspectives of how we need to operate both now and for the long term.
Okay, um, I think I mentioned to you that for a long time, I think I was thinking about optimization as a bit of tweaking here and a bit of fixing there, rather than as a kind of full-blooded control and leveraging of the whole infrastructure to support the business. So that was what I was thinking about, this more full-blooded approach when I thought about this session. So maybe the first thing we should really do is clarify what we mean, or what CityFibre means by network optimization.
Yeah. For us, network optimization isn't just about the traditional cost per bit.
Mhm.
It's about creating that intelligent, adaptive infrastructure that drives business value. And my team and other teams within the business, we're all focused on balancing the technical excellence of the multi-gig capable network that we're building with the commercial realities that we need for sustainable growth, operational efficiency, and customer satisfaction. Because that business value is the critical metric. The approach that we have taken is inherently shaped by our investor view, because network optimization business value has to be driven by what your investors want. And we have a business that is focused for long-term infrastructure platforms. We plan on a constant basis for 20 years rolling. And why do we do that? Because we're wholesale. We have to support our ISPs to retain their customers, to grow their customer base. And by taking a very long view of how we build and how we operate the network, it allows us to really be the trusted provider to them. And that's why we're on a mission to constantly deliver the best products with the best service, with the best economics. And how we do that is simple. We focus on being those best in class. We rigorously focus on customer experience, delivering the service that you have ordered when you want it, for example. Because there's nothing more frustrating than sitting at home, waiting for an install, and it doesn't happen. It's a bad first experience. So we put a lot of effort on network optimization to make that happen effectively and efficiently. We apply the same focus as we build an active network. We wanted to always make our network, the wholesale network that we provide, almost seen as a virtual extension of the ISP's network. So if we see a fault, we should relay that almost instantaneously to the ISP. Because again, you're sitting at home as a customer, you don't care that there's a wholesale operator in the chain. If your service goes down, you want to know there's going to be a fix. So anything we can do to support the ISPs in articulating failure, breakage, fix times aggressively as possible to their customers, truly practically, effectively, is a great place to be. And we always have to focus on product quality to ensure that we've got a scalable and efficient business. And that means we build an operating framework around asset quality, be that the underlying data records that support our use of the network and how we can optimize it, to how we apply life cycle principles to all of those assets that we put in the ground. When do we need to refresh it? Do controlled maintenances? And again, within a 10 to 20 year view.
Okay, so that's a long horizon. And thinking about what you've just said about using the best of everything, um, does that mean that network optimization is part of your network design? Are you always thinking right from the beginning about being able to control and therefore leverage network assets?
Absolutely. The optimization is fundamentally a central tenet of our design philosophy.
Okay.
Um, and we always try and do it from a product first perspective. We look at how the products that we produce, wholesale e-access services, residential services and business services, how are they going to evolve over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? We look at parallel markets elsewhere in the globe, look for innovators in customer experience that may occur in the ISP space. And we try and take those learnings and apply it to a set of scenarios, the possibilities that could occur in the future. And then we have to try and apply those scenario plans to how we could evolve the network. Now, they're scenarios. So we have to weight them about where we're more likely to go than others. And we build those kind of considerations into how we build, for example, our data centers. So we went through our data centers, which houses our access equipment that connects to a home. We looked at the power plant in those data centers. We look at the PON technologies. And we also look at things like the ESG commitments and how they're going to evolve over time. The power plant, for example, we know that there's a linkage between power plant. We have backup diesel generators. When we look at our ESG evolution, we can see over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to have to move to cleaner fuels for backup generation. But we need to do that, and we need to balance that with how do we optimize that with ensuring that we can always get supply under critical national failure. So there's lots of network design activity that looks to optimize our business value, which is not just, as I said, it's not just cost per bit, it's about how we evolve the technologies. And then we look at PON technologies. So we currently have a 15 to 20 year rolling plan for PON technologies. We have always planned our data centers so that we can migrate easily from one technology to another. So for example, we've just converted 3.5 million premises, the ability to move from GPON to XGS-PON. We've overlaid that in a 12-month period because we can quickly upgrade the network to do that. And then we plan for the 2030s and mid-2030s, early 2030s to move to 50 or 100 gig PON. Again, it's going to be the same sort of 12-month migration period if we decide to do it. So we build that into everything we do. But to do that, we absolutely have to have control of our assets and we need to leverage them to best effect. And right now we're facing into a challenge to our design principles. We have been an organic build organization. We've built our own network. We're in control of our own destiny. But as many of you may know, we're quite acquisitive now in the UK market. We're looking at other altnets and consolidation. And they have different investors. And those different investors will have different approaches to business value. And we often find that it's about how do we convert entities that may only have a 3 or 5 year transaction through view into a 20-year asset network. And quite a lot of our time is about how we do that, driving maximum business value to our investors and to our customers over the next 5 and 10 years now. It's a great conundrum that we're working through.
Okay, we're going to come back, I think, a bit and talk about that a little bit more because I think it's a really key thing. I'm just wondering though how much AI is already playing a role in network optimization, and presumably that role is going to get bigger and bigger as AI itself evolves, which in itself is quite tricky to keep up with, I think. We've gone from machine learning being pretty widely used in telecom, but then we got Gen AI and then we've got agentic AI, and God knows what's coming next. But anyway.
Well, I think you're spot on. It's a journey. I think we can all say that on the previous calls. It's all about the journey. And the journey has two facets. It's the technology, absolutely. So where we introduced machine learning into our standard operation parts of our network about 7 years ago. We've always, to be fair, we've always been committed to a software-defined network evolution that inherently had that type of automation, though the automation now is almost on steroids. But we started with a relatively simplistic machine learning approach, and we applied it to our access network. So we look at, as we build a network and we turn our customers, we have different construction companies. We have different fiber design criteria. Sometimes we go underground to a premise. Sometimes we go to an aerial pole. There's lots of different architectures. And we wanted to build an engine that looked at, well, what was the normal experience that an ONT to an OLT light should perform at over a period of time with the different architectures. So we have a machine learning algorithm that every day looks through what our normal experience is and then looks for outliers. So maybe we can see degradation due to a failing splice joint out in the fiber network, or a ONT that's starting to suffer degradation of its light because of age, and we can see if we can then relate that to a particular batch of ONTs. So we've spent a significant amount of time building machine learning algorithms around that OLT, ONT access network. And then we're now developing that elsewhere in the network. What we then started moving forward on as well, okay, so we can spot issues when they occur, but how can we avoid issues in the first place? So poor quality fiber is the bane of all fiber optic networks. So we introduced about 5 years ago with a company called Deepomatic, based out of Paris, a use of their visual AI tool for every fiber that we have in our data centers. So we built a visual AI tool to inspect the cables that we run, how we run them, give us a birth certificate, and then manage it over its life cycle. And that's great. So we've now got machine learning that's been there for a while, looking at the outliers of the network. We have visual AI that looks at birth certificates, how we build things. But now we want to bring this type of intelligence together. So we want to be able to try and use things like Gen AI to go, well, what should it look like if you run the cables this way? These type of cables run in the field. How can that evolve? And in addition, we want to look at how can we take those tools and apply them to mergers and acquisitions. So can we use them for our asset assessment, our due diligence on an asset? Because we know how a network should work. Well, if we know that and we've got that automated, how can we build these into really Gen AI or even in time agentic AI tools, which allow us to rapidly assess an acquisition target for the quality of that network, of that asset, for the ability to ingest it into our network in a timely manner, and then maintain it for lifecycle, spot the gaps, resolve the gaps, and move forward. So there are some key areas of development for us right now. In addition, we have to look at growing our network capability. our operation, our business value. And we can only do that by scaling our business. And we can only scale our operation center by really, quite frankly, leveraging agentic AI. Predominantly, we're going to focus on dark NOC and AI ops models around software-defined network framework that, again, the industry has been talking about for quite some time. And we're on that journey. We've got proof of concepts that are about to come to the starting gate. But the issue is not technology. And I think one of the panelists on the previous panel talked to this point. It's about culture and working practice. This is when we did our visual AI journey for inspecting fibers. Our biggest challenge isn't the technology. It's about getting people to adopt the tools, see them not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Now, that opportunity can be by doing the right job, you get paid quicker. Okay, so there's a cash incentive there. It can be helping to guide you to do the right job so you're always successful, because most people go into work wanting to be successful every day. But in all of that they're relatively small shifts. I think we all would say that when we look at using agentic AI, in fact, any of the AI tools which are out there at the moment, you have to change your working practice. And sometimes you need to change your mindset. And we are early on that journey of how we culturally change an organization from a traditional telco style mentality or an operation style mentality to the legacy, the telco of the future, and the mindset necessary for all of the staff within our business to work behind. It's a big challenge.
I don't think anybody would disagree. I think it always makes the tech look like relatively simple, actually, doesn't it, when you start trying to make organisational changes, because so many people are inherently resistant because they fear change. And
yeah, and we need to take that fear, be appreciative of it, and then help people realise actually it's just another tool. It's like moving from a typewriter to a computer.
I'm old enough to remember that. I think we should move on. Can we talk about integration, David, which kind of builds on what you've been talking about with acquisition and stuff? And I mean, I think one of the really big things is that telcos of all stripes, they're constantly striving to do more and better with their network assets and drive costs down at the same time, which is kind of quite a tricky balancing out. But a big cause of operational costs being so high is a lack of integration, typically after a sequence of acquisitions, and you end up with lots of silos. So I think very often when acquisitions are being made, people are thinking about land grab and footprint rather than integration and both of the business and especially technologically. I think actually telcos have been really rather guilty of just carrying on running things kind of separately. I can think of one or two great examples actually, but we won't go into it.
Well, I think you're right. It's almost like the telco curse. Revenue rules everything, and so long as the revenue rolls in on a year by year basis, you kind of put stuff in the locker to be resolved in a future point. The way we're approaching this is, again, we're an infrastructure company. So if you're
on the acquisition trail, aren't you?
And we're on the acquisition trail. So if you're only worried about the year by year revenue, you might have a different view of how you would do an acquisition. This needs to be a sustainable business. The trust the ISPs are placing in us to deliver their services is critical. So we need to not lose that trust, because once we've lost that trust, it's very hard to gain it back. Now, we can achieve that by we've got a product, and the product performs in a certain way, and we are ruthless about it performing to that specification. And where that feeds into our acquisition strategy is whenever we do a market assessment of the UK market, alternate network providers, we look at how the passive architecture is built, what OLT vendors are there, what routers are chosen, what does the footprint look like relative to our existing footprint and other altnets, and what are the products that are currently on that network. And we need to ingest that network, and the network needs to provide CityFibre products to our specification that must deliver the ISPs within a relatively short time frame. Generally, we focus on a 6 to 12 month. It is quite aggressive. Do get a little bit stressed by that sometimes, but by being aggressive, it forces us to make certain decisions. So we will rationalize the OLTs. We consolidate on 2 to 3 vendors. Same with the routed platforms. We will look at how do we make the installation journeys consistent with our existing process, and if we have to materially change, does that mean that we have to introduce new capability that can work across a bigger footprint? So really, really focused on rationalization of the footprint as quickly as possible. We are not interested in running separate business structures and separate architectures and separate IT systems over the long term. Quite frankly, not even the medium term. We approach this in 3 phases. So the first phase is to align to CityFibre the viable product. The second phase, generally in that 1 to 3 year period, is about ensuring that we have life cycle. So we may introduce the product, but we might not have in a rack that is scalable for the 5 to 10 year, 15-year period. So we will take a medium-term view about, well, actually, how do we rationalize the networks together to ensure that we can build a scalable network? Now, in areas where there are 3 or 4 altnets, we'll deal with the acquisitions, aggregate, and then plan out the integration over the consolidation of the networks over a longer period of time. And that's really the phase 3. How do we execute on those long terms? So that might require us to build another data center. It might require us to move customers from one part of the network to another, working with the ISPs to manage footprint risk. We might have footprints with 150,000 premises in it that, working with the ISPs, they say we want to get to 75,000 premises to manage risk. So all of those conversations start as part of the long-term 3 to 10 year view of how we manage an integration.
But you need, as well as like thinking about the network infrastructure, really, it's just occurred to me, sorry, that you really need to understand what your ISP customers want in a big way.
100%. We're here
You're
to
selling
service.
to them, so
Yeah, we're here to service our customers. We're not here for some esoteric architectural principle of I want to build the greatest network. I want to build the greatest products that support their success.
Okay, so you've got a 20-year view, which is kind of looking through the wrong of the binoculars, isn't it? You know, it's a long way out. So you have to evolve an agile platform. You've got to prepare the best you can for the unknown. And I'm wondering what are the uncertainties that you're most concerned about and trying to plan for? But then you can tie yourself in knots with known knowns and known unknowns and all that stuff. But anyway, you get the general idea.
Yeah. So the way my team approach this is we do work with our strategy team, but within the architecture team in my technology domain, we have been leveraging Bill Sharp's 3 Horizon model from the International Futures Forum to look at how technology and society evolves its needs. And then if you look at, for example, how data is going to flow. If we all have driverless cars, do we think the compute calculations in the driverless cars is going to be in the car? Or is it going to be on an edge compute solution? It ties into network as a service scenarios. And if so, what services do we need to provide? What guarantees we need to provide in that 10 to 20 year view? So that's just one segment. We look at a possible scenario. And then we go, well, how do we fit into that? Do we now need to give guaranteed services of performance for certain high value traffic between the edge and the core nodes? So we look at all of those considerations that we think are reasonable. And we also try and speak to people about what is unreasonable. What are those outliers that we sit here and we go, oh, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And then suddenly somebody comes up with that killer app and we have to support it. So we take those all into account. The biggest question we have at the moment fundamentally is edge compute. Where is the edge? Nobody knows. Everyone debates it. I think we've been debating it for the last decade. But it is a big question for us. We do get asked a lot about where is the evolution of 5G and 6G. I mean, as an access provider, we set an expectation of an uncontended access edge. So you as a home user, when you're using your broadband at home, should be able to use it every evening with no constraint. And I, as a mobile user, the only time my mobile works to the level I would expect based upon what I'm sold is when I'm at home and it's on my broadband. When I'm in Waterloo Station, which I'm in 3 or 4 times a week, I can't use my phone on a 5G network. So I think there is a much bigger question in the mobile space about actually what is the true customer experience that you need to deliver? And then what do you need off me as a wholesale access provider to help you support that? Because I don't think that is clear. I think the adverts are clear, but the delivery is challenged.
I find it amazing that in the US, 1.8 million people signed up for the beta version of T-Mobile's device-to-device satellite service. 1.8 million people, which I think is equivalent of about 1.5% of its subscriber base. But that tells me there are a lot of people who are spending quite a bit of time when their network doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's what it suggests, doesn't it? And it suggests that quite a lot of people mind and are willing to, to do something, to take steps to fix it. But I thought that was quite an astonishing number, actually.
It is quite a big number.
Yeah, and that is all about having coverage all the time, isn't it?
Yes.
Whether you're in Waterloo Station or King's Cross is my personal bugbear. I've never been able to get online in King's Cross any time of day. Anyway, okay, so I was just wondering about as well, with 5G and 6G, this whole backhaul and the support, the fiber support that these technologies need. Do you think that's going to be huge? Because we want to keep going higher and higher frequencies to get more and more capacities, which means more and more antenna sites. I mean, do you think that is going to be a huge part of your business going forward or not?
Well, it's quite a significant part of our business at the moment, because we always maintain that one of the architectural principles is we build a network for the future, and the future includes public sector, residential, business, and mobile. Where we are really keen to understand more is actually what is that 10 to 20-year plan for mobile, say small cell aggregation? Do we need to add timing capabilities effectively to a residential service? There's definitely going to be pricing dynamics that need to happen in the mobile operators networks, that may require us to not provide direct dark fiber, which we can do, but it's going to be an expense to do that. Versus actually, why don't you run it over a residential PON if you've got ubiquitous PON everywhere? So there's lots of solutions that could be possible. We still need a lot more direction. The ISPs give us great direction around the residential market and business market. We kind of still need to see that at a consistent space across the mobile operators.
David, it's been terrific as always. I hope you'll come back at another event for us. In the meantime, I'd just like to thank you very much for your time and input. That was very interesting.